Hello friends, my name is Pam Vandermeer and I am here to take you through the very exciting React Team manual and policies. And so first of all, I want to say thank you for being willing to serve on this team. We're really excited about this team. We've dreamed and prayed and had this vision for a team like this to be able to meet our families and their participants in a deeper way. And so because of this team, because of volunteers like you, we're able to come alongside the families and participants and encourage them and provide help and just as the team suggests, just react to the needs that they have. And so hopefully some of those needs are proactive reactions and not just responding to it, not just responding to a need. So thank you for your willingness to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and just for your willingness to love like Jesus loved. So our reflectors, the first page is our Reflectors Ministry core values, and our mission is the same as that of Faith Church, to reach the disconnected and to grow the connected. Our vision for Reflectors is to facilitate the discipleship and belonging of people with developmental disabilities at Faith Church. And Faith Church's vision, as is ours, is to do this by transforming the world one relationship at a time. So we all know how important relationships are, and that's the way that will lead to transformation, is when we know people well. We have 3 beliefs here in the Reflectors Ministry. Genesis 1 verse 26 talks about how every human being is an image bearer of God. We're all made in God's image. And Romans 3:22 through 24, that every human being that God has made is sinful, and we are all equally in need of Jesus. And 1 Corinthians 12 verse 15 through 27 talks about the members and the parts of the body. Every member of God's kingdom possesses indispensable gifts. And what that means is that we all have gifts, we all have talents, and each one of our gifts and talents is indispensable. The values in Reflectors Ministry are that every person would know that God loves them. Every person would grow in their love for God and for others, and that Faith Church would be a safe place to do ministry. So we have our next page has our React Team descriptions, and just some basic general guidelines that we have is that the minimum age for being on this team is 16 years old. And the minimum age for anybody driving a vehicle to complete a React Team task is 21. For any of our team members that are under 18, you have to fill out a serving application, which includes references, and then go through this policy and manual training. If you're over 18, we ask that you fill out, again, the serving application, which includes references and also a background check for everybody who's over 18. And then, of course, this React policy and manual training. We have 6 different kind of subcategories to the team. Some of you have signed up for all 6. Some of you have signed up for just a couple. And we're thankful for each one of you. But just real quickly to give you an overview, we have 6 different teams. The meal team, the visitation team, the encouragement team, the gift team, the house help team, and the transportation team. And some of these teams kind of overlap in things. You could give encouragement by going to do a visit, or you could be bringing a gift over and visiting at the same time. So some of them are overlap, but we kind of tried to break them down a little bit to give people just different options. Policies for team members. Home visits or delivery policies. We ask that you do not enter a home unless a member of the household invites you in. We also ask that if someone invites you into the home and you're the opposite gender as that person, that there are others inside the home before entering. So if there are none, respectfully decline the offer to enter their home. If the individual is the same gender, it will still be advised to only enter if there's somebody else present, but this will be left to the discretion of you as a team member if you would like to do that. In assembling meals and gifts, please adhere to the directions given from the team leader, which include dietary restrictions, allergies, preferences, ages, for age appropriateness, etc. Nicole and I will try to give you as descriptive as information or as preferences, allergies as we are given. Transportation policies. If an individual that you are transporting, again, is of the opposite gender, there has to be a third person present of either gender inside the vehicle. So say I was being asked to transport a male, I would have to at least have one other person in the vehicle. Doesn't matter if they're male or female, but just one other individual. If the individual you are transporting is the same gender, we still advise a third person to be present, but this is left up to your discretion. The team member will be expected to drive lawfully, wearing a seatbelt, driving hands-free, and obeying the speed limit. Outing policies. If the individual you are meeting is of the opposite gender, make sure that at least one other person will be present. If the individual is the same gender, again, we still advise a third person to come along, but this will be left to your discretion. Safe touch. Touch can be healing and reassuring. However, it is important to touch in a manner that respects the person. Conduct yourself in a way that contains friendship, but nothing more. If an individual initiates physical contact, you may engage so long as you are comfortable and, of course, that the contact is appropriate. As for your initiative, a rule of thumb would be to be as hands-off as possible. However, if you feel the need to initiate physical contact, offering to hug a crying person, ask for permission before initiating. May I give you a hug? Otherwise, if you're dropping something off and somebody that you know or somebody that is asking for a hug, you can always suggest a fist bump or a high five, or even just a side hug. It's kind of a nice compromise. Sickness. I hope this goes without saying, especially in the COVID days we're living in. If you are sick, it is requested that you do not participate in team tasks until you are healthy. Phone calls, obviously, or other tasks that do not require touch points or physical proximity would be an exception. If you've already committed to a task and you can no longer complete it because of sickness, just contact Nicole or I, and we'll be happy to make other arrangements. Reimbursements. The expectation of team members is to personally provide the costs and goods involved in executing the task, unless otherwise specified by the team member. So gas and transportation costs, gift cards, a cup of coffee, those things we would expect you to cover. If it will be communicated if a gift is provided ahead of time, in which case a team member is just responsible for the delivery or the usage of that gift. For example, if we have a meal that we have here that someone's made that's frozen in our freezers and we're just looking for you to deliver it, we're just looking for that. We're not asking for that. All of this being said, that if finances or if resources are something that is difficult for you to participate in this team, please contact us and we will do what we can to support you there. We can offer reimbursement ahead of time, or kind of give you a budget in which you can work with so that you can complete the task, or you can be a part of that encouragement or whatever it is that you're providing to our participants. But we just ask that you talk to us ahead of time for that and just have a conversation with us. Cell phone. The only personal contact information you are expected to share besides your first name is your cell number. Then this number will be used for team communication regarding needs that come up. And it will also be used for direct communication with the individual you are serving when necessary. All right, the next 2 pages of the manual talk about communicating with and about people with disabilities. And there's lots of just ways that you can, suggestions of ways that you can speak to somebody. One rule of thumb is that you speak in people first language. So it's not the wheelchair lady, it's the lady who uses a wheelchair. It's not the autistic child, it's the child with autism. So the person first, and then you can have their disability that describes them, or just describe them as the person that they are, a male or a female or whatever, and you don't have to even include the disability. There is kind of a whole table here on this page of affirmative phrases versus negative phrases. Person with cerebral palsy versus CP victim. A person who has a physical disability as opposed to disabled, deformed, lame, crippled. Person who is successful. Person who is productive. The negative way to say it has overcome a disability is courageous or inspirational because of their disability. So just some suggestions and language that empowers people. Actions for people with disabilities that you can kind of add, disability etiquette we call this, is based on respect and courtesy. And so generally when a person with a disability, when you're introduced with a person with a disability, as you would anybody else, you can offer to shake hands. Obviously maybe not in this COVID season, but if you have somebody who has maybe limited hand use or who wears an artificial limb, they can still usually shake their hands, but just make the accommodation to shake if one hand isn't available, to do the other one. If you offer assistance, wait until the offer is accepted. Then listen or ask for instructions. So don't assume that somebody needs you to move their wheelchair out of the way to get into a doorway. Ask, may I help you move your chair? Can I move your chair into the doorway? And then wait for them to say, yes, I could use that help. Or maybe they'll say, no, I've got it on my own. I don't need your help. I think one of the really important actions of disability etiquette is to treat people their age. Treat adults as adults. Don't speak louder to somebody because you think they can't hear you if they haven't responded the first time. Address people with disabilities by their first names. And just don't be afraid to ask questions if you're unsure what to do. So you can say, like, I'm sorry, I didn't understand you. Can you repeat yourself? Or could you, I think you said this. That's a way to kind of repeat back what you think they were asking, just to kind of clarify that. Tips for communicating with people who are blind or visually impaired. Speak to the individual when you approach him or her. Speak clearly and state who you are. So if I would be going up to somebody who was blind, I would walk up to them and say, hi, I'm Pam. How are you today? In a normal tone of voice. So just remember to, if you're in a group of people, you can identify yourself and say, I'm also here with my friend Sarah, or whoever your friend's name is. Of course, never touch or distract a service dog without first asking the owner, may I pet your dog? Or may I talk to them? Or may I speak to them? Because they're working. Always tell the individual when you are leaving. Allow the person who is blind or has a visual impairment to hold your arm and control his or her own movements. Don't try to take their hand to move them. Let them hold on to you and kind of guide them. Be descriptive when giving verbal directions. For example, if you're approaching steps, say how many steps there are. There's 3 steps here that we'll need to go down together. If you're offering a seat, gently place the individual's hand on the back of the arm or the chair so this person can locate the seat or chair. How to communicate with somebody who is deaf or hard of hearing. Gain the person's attention before starting a conversation by gently tapping on their shoulder or arm or waving in the person's line of sight. Look directly at the individual, face the light, and speak clearly in a normal tone of voice, keeping your hands away from your face because oftentimes they're trying to read your lips. Avoid smoking while talking or chewing gum. If the individual uses a sign language interpreter, speak directly to the person, not the interpreter. If you telephone an individual who is hard of hearing, let the phone ring longer than usual. Speak clearly and slowly. This is kind of a hard one for me. And be prepared to repeat the reason for the call and who you are. Communicating with individuals with mobility impairments. If it's possible, put yourself at the wheelchair user's eye level. So if you're taller like I am and you're speaking to somebody in a wheelchair, kind of squat down or rest down on one knee to get right at their eye level. Please don't lean on the person's wheelchair or any other assistive device. And don't pat somebody on the head or on the shoulder when who is in a wheelchair. It's kind of patronizing to them. Do not assume that the wheelchair user wants to be pushed. Ask first. Offer assistance if the person appears to be having a difficult time opening the door. If you telephone the individual, allow the phone to ring longer than usual to allow for extra time for the person to reach the telephone. And then if you're communicating with somebody who has a speech impairment, if you do not understand something they're saying, again, don't pretend that you do. Ask the individual to repeat what he or she said and then repeat that back to them. Try to ask questions which require only short answers or a nod of the head. Be patient and just take as much time as necessary to understand each other. Concentrate on what the individual is saying. Please don't speak for the individual or attempt to finish his or her sentences. If you're having difficulty understanding the individual, consider writing as an alternative means of communication. But first, ask the individual if this is acceptable and okay with them. Tips for communicating with individuals with cognitive disabilities. If you are in public with many distractions, consider moving to a quiet or private location. Be prepared to repeat what you say orally or in writing. Offer assistance completing forms or understanding written instructions, and provide extra time for them to make a decision. Wait for the individual to accept the offer of assistance. Do not over-assist or be patronizing. Be patient, flexible, and supportive. Take time to understand the individual and make sure the individual understands you as well. Just remember, relax. Treat the individual with dignity and respect and courtesy. Listen to the individual and offer assistance, but do not insist or be offended if your offer is not accepted. So there is that is the end of our manual and policies. The last page that we have here, either digitally or the hard copy, is the manual and policy agreement. And that's basically saying that you listen to this lovely 17-minute video and that you agree to the policies and that you'll abide by the provisions that we have stated here. And that so that's the top part, and the bottom part is the waiver of liability. Just you can read through that as well. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. But otherwise, attached to this Google form is also a way that you can sign this form digitally if you would like to. And then you can just hit submit or send, and we'll get a copy of that. Again, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching this. And thank you most of all for being willing to be the hands and feet of Jesus in this way. You're loved and valued. Thank you.